Hey friends! All right, we're ready for our last part of this project. So what we're gonna do is our trees, okay? So I'm gonna I have some black paint and a paintbrush, and I have my background that I've been working so hard on. So what you guys can use at home first, if you're using a white paper and you've colored your background, and it is nice and dark and black, maybe some blues in it, you can still use a black crayon and that would be totally fine. So I have my crayons here. So you could take any black crayon, if I even have one in here somewhere, I'm not quite sure, but a black crayon would work totally fine to do this. Black color pencils, even a Sharpie marker would show up really well too. So if you don't have a black paper and you've colored yours, you can still use black. Now, if you want to make green trees and maybe you have colored yours, but it's not quite as dark as like a black paper would be, you can make your trees green. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you do you and you have fun, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dip my brush, for those of you using paint, into my black paint, and all I'm gonna do is make a line that goes up. Okay, you can see that. I know it's a little tough, but you can see that there, because this black paint is darker black than my paper is. And then all I'm gonna do, guys, is just really quick, I'm just making little lines. So I'm not actually painting back and forth really smooth. I'm just making little lines, little dashes, dipping more paint when I need it until I get all the way to the bottom. And you don't have to worry about a tree trunk, of course, unless you want to put one. Just your dashed little lines will be totally perfect. I'm gonna hold it up a little just to make sure you can see that little tree. And we're gonna make it stand out more when we do our chalk in just a little bit. So let's play around with some sizes now. So maybe back here we have just a smaller one, my line, and then all of my little lines of paint. And if you guys are using watercolor, like if you have painted your paper with watercolor, you can totally use watercolor for your trees as well. You could even have used watercolor on like your Northern Lights too, just different blends of colors. Right, and I'm gonna make this one kind of like touching the one next to it. So those two are close. And I'm gonna put like half of one here. Like so here we only see half of the tree. All right, and what I'm gonna do then, after I've got my trees painted, is I'm gonna make their reflection. So I'm actually gonna wipe off some of my paint for this, because remember, we want reflections not to be like as harsh and perfect. So I have like very, very little paint on my actual brush. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing. Tiny bit of paint. And we'll do these. And by the time I'm done with these, I should be able to show you the snow, I'm thinking. Because this is going to dry pretty quick. Over here. All right, my friends, we've got our trees. I'm just gonna hold it up close, and their reflections. So now all I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm gonna take a white chalk, and I'm literally just gonna color little areas of white. Kind of like snow has piled up on the edge of my branches. Now, since you guys are working at home and at your own pace, if you see that your chalk is still, your paint is still, if you use paint and it still looks really wet, you could totally take a break. And you could wait for it to dry and then do this part. That would be totally fine. So I'm just adding a little snow to each of those trees. And you can see how immediately like the trees stand out way more against the black background. Because we're sort of just like highlighting them. And I'm just like gently touching it with a little bit of white here and there. There's no right or wrong. I'm just trying to make it look like the snow has fallen and it's kind of gathered on the branches a little bit. All right. And then I'm just gonna touch very slightly, like even less, on my reflections. And I'm gonna rub that out a little bit. All right. And we're done, guys. I can't wait to see yours.